Coming up in today's video, I show you how I quickly painted my 28mm Eureka Miniatures horses. I haven't painted any animals in years, so I wanted to create something that looked good but was quick to paint, and I think this tutorial will help those in a very similar situation to me. If you find this video useful, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and let me know what you liked most below. Alright guys, so how do I paint a horse and how do I paint a horse quickly? That's a bloody good question because I've never painted a horse before. I might have when I was like 14 and I've collected Lord of the Rings miniatures, but I'm now 31 and it's been a very long time since I last painted one. So I'm going to show you how I paint my horse. I'm going for a bay, so to start off with, I'm going to paint it in German Camo Medium Brown. What's a bay? Again, good question. I don't know my horses. I googled it and a bay is a brown horse. A European brown horse. I'm not sure if it's just European. I know it's a brown horse. So I'm painting it in this color and I'm just trying to make sure I'm not being too messy. Now I've got that, I'm going to beige brown. Now the reason I go to beige brown is because I want to reduce the darkness. So I'm going to a lighter color and I'm just dabbing away. You can see that I'm sort of just pushing at it. I'm picking out parts of the muscle, part of his legs, where you can see most sunlight, but also where there's more detail. I don't want to just paint this on. I want to dry brush it because this is going to be towing an artillery piece. So it's not going to be pristine, it's not going to be brushed nicely, it's going to be dirty and it's going to be all over the place in terms of the hair and that. Now I want to highlight with brown sand and I just use the exact same technique, and I apologize for the camera going out of focus there. But this time I'm only really focusing on the areas that you can see. I'm not going to do underneath or between his legs. I'm just going to pick out the real bits of detail that only you're going to see, like a traditional highlight would be, except I'm using a dry brush to do this. So it's really rough, but honestly it would save you no time at all and you'll love the results if you want a quick finish. So to paint the saddle, I'm just using saddle brown. I mean, it's in the name. Saddle brown, it's a really nice brown color actually, and just take your time here and just, you know, don't rush the process, even though there's 6 of these to paint if you purchase the Eureka Miniatures German Limbo, which I highly recommend. And if you want to support the channel, that's another way of supporting the channel, by going ahead and purchasing one of those, because the guys over at Eureka are a fantastic supporter of this channel. So with that, I then move on to German Grey. So German Grey, as you can guess, is purely for the metallic bits. So this saddle is full of little metal hooks and loops and bits of metal. I don't know the correct term, so please correct me. I'm going to need a lot of help with this one. But you can see that there's lots of metal on here, and we just want to paint that in German Grey. I'm using a very fine brush here and I'm just taking my time. Please don't rush the process, because if you rush it, you're just going to make mistakes and you're going to get fed up and move on to the next project. Now for the hair, I'm using black. You can also give it like a more of a blondie color. You can give it the same sort of base color as well. So I'll show you a couple of different colors that I used for this. But yeah, I used black to paint the horse. And again, I apologize for the focusing issues that I experienced when painting this model. I don't know what actually was causing it, but I'll try and fix that up for in the future. Okay, so I said I've used black. Now I'm going to use beige brown. So if you can remember, beige brown was my first highlight, or my first dry brush color. The reason I'm doing that is purely because I don't want to use German Camo Medium Brown, otherwise it will just look identical. So if I use my first highlight color, it's going to stand out a little bit more. So this technique is really simple. Honestly, it's so straightforward. Anyone can do it. So if you're new to painting horses, this is going to be the quickest way you can do it. Some people are fantastic at painting horses, really good, and they are out there on YouTube. So go and look for them if you want something a little bit better than this. But this is just a quick and easy way of doing it. So for the hoofs, I use burnt umber, and I'm just painting the hoof in burnt umber. There's not really much more that can be said about it, honestly. Oh god, you can tell that I don't paint horses too often. Now for the wash, I go a 50-50 ratio of Nor oil and Lahmian medium. I have no idea how to pronounce. I'm never going to know, and even if you tell me, I'll still get it wrong. I blame being from Leicester, but you do it a 1-to-1 ratio. It's basically their thinners. And I'm just giving it a really good wash, but only on the saddle. So I'm trying to avoid getting it on the horse itself. Now for the highlight of the black hair, just use German grey. You can use black grey. You can use German grey. I used black grey for this. Black grey, German grey. It's all much of a muchness. It's pretty much the exact same colour. So yeah, you can use either of those, and it's just a very subtle highlight, but one that's necessary for black. People use blue. They add a little bit of blue to their black. You could try that. It looks a little bit fantasy for me, so I just use black grey or German grey. Now for the more brown colour, I'm using umber wash to wash that initial beige brown. That's just going to give each individual strand of hair its own little shade, and then that way we can come back through layer and highlight if we want to. So as I always do, I've put a wash down now. I'm layering, so I'm using beige brown for this. This step is fine. You don't have to highlight the hair after this, so you might go, actually I really like the way it looks now. It looks similar to the base color, and that's what I was trying to achieve. You know, sometimes hair super highlighted looks a little bit unrealistic, so it's really your call. So because we gave the saddle and all of its equipment a wash in black wash or Nor oil from Citadel, I'm going back over the bits of metal with German grey. Now this bit can take you less than 2 minutes. It's just a dab of it on each bit of the metal equipment on the horse, because we're going to go back over it with its final highlight of silver in a moment. Okay, so I said it, and this is what we're using. So we're using base lead belcher from Citadel. So one of my favorite silvers is obviously from Citadel. There's other companies that do silvers, and I mean, again, they're probably all very similar. But I've always found that the silvers from Citadel are normally pretty decent. So I go base lead belcher. You could go something a little bit brighter if you want. You don't have to. And you can see that I'm just adding on little lines here and there, little dots where there's tiny bits of the metal poking through between each part of the strap. Now it's the saddle's turn, and on all honesty, the saddle was the longest part for me of painting these horses. So just take your time and just slowly start scratching away at the detail and build it up until to the final highlight. So this is the first layer. You can see I'm painting about 50% of each part in the initial color, and I'm leaving the darker parts near as to where the leg would be, or your butt, and anything like that, just to make it stand out a little bit more, and it's just going to help really bring this saddle to life. Okay, so now I use saddle brown and white grey. So you can go at a 1-to-1 ratio for this. You can also go at like a 2-to-1, so 2 parts saddle brown, 2 parts white. or white grey, any type of white really, and just start slowly building it up. So you can add in like little areas where are a bit brighter and a bit more worn, and that's what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm trying to show parts of this saddle that are worn, parts of this that are obviously a bit newer. Bearing in mind this is going to be towing a gun, and I'm assuming depending on what stage of the war, if not most stages of the war, you're not going to have time to be cleaning your horse, giving it a brush, and trying to make it look pristine unless you're going on parade. So the dirtier honestly doesn't make a big difference to me, hence why the horse has just been dry brushed opposed to painting on the highlights or even airbrushing it. So now we can add a little bit of white to the face, or the bridge of the nose, whatever you'd call that. I'm just awful at this horse business, I must apologise. So I'm using Deck Tan, its initial base colour. You can use like a creamy yellow as well if you wanted to, just so we can highlight it with white. Their socks were also white or black, or just left as their base. You can just leave them as their base colour. So that's where the joy of painting horses comes into it. You can really customise them to look how you want, even just using the same base colour for all 6 horses, for example, which is what I did. And then I use white grey, and I just start dotting on little bits around just to give it a bit of a brighter colour, but leaving that Deck Tan on the outer parts. So it's just a highlight of that part of the face. Okay, so most of the reference photos that I've seen of horses, and going back to my childhood when I used to walk through fields and that, they always seem to have a really dark mouth, and they might have dark tip of ears and black socks and that. So I'm going to black to really darken the area around the mouth, but I'm not putting too much of it on because I want to leave some of that white showing. So I'm just putting it on, and I'm slowly building it up around the edges. You don't want to smother it all on and then you lose some of that really nice detail. So as I said, you can also paint the tip of the ears using this colour, or dry brush the tip of the ears if you wanted to, and also you can paint the socks in this colour. So you can see I'm doing the tip of the ears, as I said, just a little bit, just adding it in and just going down to the length that I'm happy with. So yeah, paint it how you want to. And then to highlight, you can use US Field Drab, highlighting the hoofs, that is. You don't have to do this. Is an unnecessary step really. If you were really going to weather them, if they're walking through tons of mud, for example, you wouldn't need to do this. You could just cover their hoofs in mud and you'll be laughing. Now, a lot of my inspiration for painting these came from a YouTuber called Lockie Greathall. Now, he hasn't been active on YouTube for quite a few years, but he's got some amazing tutorials on how to paint horses of different colours, so I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Now, if you've seen my Field Grey tutorial, you would have seen this already. This is the Eureka Miniatures World War II German Limber. It's now out. You can go and purchase it if you want to. It's such a good kit, and as I said, you'll be supporting the channel if you do. If you've already seen it, you already know how awesome it is to have a 28mm gun limber for the Germans. It's just fantastic. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching. A huge thanks goes out to my Patreons. As always, you guys are fantastic and you really are supporting the channel. All of your funds will be put back to the channel to help buy paints, etc. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that bell button, and also give the video a like. The more likes the video gets, obviously the more publicity it's going to get on YouTube. Other than that, guys, I'll leave it here and I will catch you at the next one.